Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I greet you, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum. This evening, just want to take a few moments and look back at some things in history that occurred, but I'm focusing first here on this book here by Imam W.D. Muhammad that kind of set the tone for me in following the Imam's lead and doing dawah and standing with him and following his lead. This book here, published in 1983, and him dealing with Al-Islam, Judaism, Catholicism, and Protestantism, and following his lead, the books that I wrote, I dealt with more than one subject myself and seeing the way he did this. I'm sure this is what motivated me to do this, even though my subject on my first book was Al-Islam, Christianity, and Freemasonry. But if you notice that most of the books that I wrote, they dealt with more than one subject. Afrocentricity, Malcolm X and Al-Islam, Freemasonry, Ancient Egypt, and the Islamic Destiny. Well, and following Imam's lead, this is one of the books that made me go about it that way. I'm saying this in moving in what I want to focus on today, standing with the Imam, etc. But on a topic, a subject that I was first motivated from the Nation of Islam, being in the Nation of Islam under the Elijah Muhammad, but also further encouraged by things that the Imam said and did under his leadership. So I'm going to look at that, present some of that. First, maybe going with 1989, a video, and then working back from that, looking at 89, 88, maybe 86 and 85, that you may find interesting, but I think it's very, very important. So from here now, I'm going to go to a particular video, and inshallah, we come back and we'll discuss that and show you some other important information. Alhamdulillah. I'm sure some of you brothers and sisters have this book here, Religion on the Line.
I have never made any personal attack on Chris Hall, the man, in any of my writings or any of my talks. I've never done that. My ideals have been against, if anything, has been against concepts, maybe philosophies that we might have disagreed on, secrecy, which I made a big thing out of once before when we was in Washington. So I've never done that. Right. And I think we as men, we take the high road. I said I never made any attacks against Prince Hall Mason, the man. And in my studies, I've found him to have been a strong advocate of education, and he has been a strong man for the freedom of our people. And I respect that, and I appreciate that. But the Reverend Abu, in his latest book review, has made a personal attack upon a man who we hold very dearly, and that is Imam Muhammad Muhammad. He has brought us from dark symbolism, and he has put us into a greater understanding of the religion and on the sooner path, which is the path of Prophet Muhammad with the universal belief in Islam. And he has done much for us and is respected not only by us, but throughout the world. And here in America, he has earned the 4 Freedom Awards as well as other things. Reverend Abu has made certain personal attacks, which I have to bring to your attention because we're for the unity, and at this point, it seems like a divisive tactic. Maybe it's not. He calls Imam Muhammad in here, he calls him an Uncle Tom, for one, which just a term is not associated with Muslims, period. We've been called a lot of things, but not Uncle Tom. You know that, right? We've never been called Uncle Tom, regardless of what the group is. He's way out of the left field on that. You understand? Okay, he also says here, one of the worst enemies of Prince Hall Masonry in Black America is Imam Muhammad, the mentor of Mustafa El-Amin. Muhammad is as guilty as any white Mason of trying to deny to black men the privileges of Masonry by means of his outrageous lies, which unfortunately his followers are gullible enough to believe. I have never, And I don't think any of you men ever heard Imam Wafdi Muhammad mention Prince Hall, the man, let alone speak ill-hearted of him. Never. And Uzl is an intelligent man. He's a wise man, and he's well-versed. And he knows he has to support his statements with evidence. But nowhere in this review, in his 12 or 13 outlandish statements against Imam Muhammad, does he support not one. And the one, there's one, and he tries to support that by saying, I've talked to certain people, and they've said such and such and such and such. Now, to me, I don't understand that. I'm not necessarily offended. I felt it was a strategy to get me all riled up and miss my points and not talk about what I was talking about. You know, and don't take this personal, but you know how these people operate, right? We know how they operate. That's one thing as being the victim. We know how they operate, but they don't know us. They don't know us well enough to know that there's a bond from our experience. There's a bond between us that they won't be able to break ever again, God willing. So I wanted to bring that out to your attention. So in the next book review, and that's there, I assume it will be there. And another point that he made about Muslims being Masons, and I'm sure there are Muslims that are Masons. Turkey is a whole Islamic country, and they have Masons there. There's African Americans that are Masons. Admittedly, I'm sure that is the case. But there's something you need to consider. In this book review, when he makes slanderous statements like that, not from the thing you should consider is not what I say as not being a member, but the members that are Muslims within the ranks of Prince Hall Masonry. It can cause some difficulty, some confusion, I would think, within the total ranks for those that are Muslim to read this type of outlandish statement. And you can write what you want, no death threats and things like that. The other thing to respond to what you said is a person can write what they want to write, but you're a Mason and you take oath. Now it may be antiquated, the death oath, but you know you can't just write anything you want to write. It may be symbolic, but the average person is scared as hell. No. Hey, listen. I told you I'm going to escape you. You can't read about it. You know what? I'm not here to defend the Ayatollah Khomeini. No. But that death will be large. His threat may be symbolic also. I don't know. I haven't consulted with him. Salman Rushdie is still around, I believe.
He's in hiding, though.
Brother Mustafa, I would like to point out one of the rules of Freemasonry. We discussed it, hopefully, on an intelligent level here, and as I forewarned Brother Uzl in the little boys' room, that there are ways to say something. Now, I would take offense, Brother Uzl, at those words. And I mean, I'm not a Muslim, but I would take offense because this man is a recognized leader of the Muslim community. And to say differently is to say they're a bunch of damn fools. You're not talking about the man, you're talking about the Father. It's just like if somebody's talking about Jesus Christ, they're talking about me. But on the other hand, I think that if you say something in private, you say it. That's one thing. But when it is printed, that's another. Because a person can read and not understand.
Yes. What is all this Jacobite business? That's something we need to stop.
He says, what is all this Jacobite business? That's something that needs to stop. If you don't know what it is, how do you know it needs to stop?
Well, I know what it is. I want you to explain to them.
I haven't heard anyone else ask the question but you.
Is that the theory advanced by the late Elijah Muhammad?
No, it was, I'm getting a signal here, but
we're going a little bit too far into other times and other things, and we're going to get out of hand.
No, we won't. We won't let it count.
All right, let me, Brother Daly, with the permission of the President. Grandmasters? Grandmasters? I'm asking you to yield your time since last night we had our rank. So done. All right, let's go.
You know,
let us hear what.
okay, what Jacobite.
Yeah, Lawrence D. Muhammad claims that Freemasons are tools of the Jacobites. To me, that is an outrageous lie, and he needs to stop telling me.
Well, let's hear what Jacobite.
Well, they said a voice will come from the heavens saying, "It is done, right? We can go ahead and talk now, right?" Well, the concept of Jacobite, first of all, Reverend Oswald has never heard that himself. He's talked to some people that say he heard it. The allusion to Jacobite, and it was not talking just specifically about Freemasonry, the allusion to the term Jacobite referred to Jacob, not in the Quran, but symbolically as he appeared in the Bible, of stealing his brother's birthright. And anyone that adhered to that type of personality, that type of deception, was considered a Jacobite. He was a supplanter, as it is presented there, to undermine, to undercut, to manipulate. And that was the term that he used when he first originally came into office, pulling away as a strategy from calling white folks devils, all right? Feeding you gradually, right? Call them a gin at one point, okay? Then he said a Jacobite conspiracy, which was, again, Jacob's conspiracy against his brother to steal his birthright. And he felt, if I remember the comments on that, he felt that any of these groups, anyone that was stealing the knowledge, that was stealing the rights of any people, was Jacobite conspiracy. And that is what he referred to. And sure, he has made, and he's capable of defending himself, comments concerning Freemasonry just as I have. But as I said here, he has never pinpointed and never referred to Prince Hall or to Black Masons. When I speak of Freemasonry, and I believe that's what he refers to, I don't want to speak for him, but what he refers to is this ideal of the white folks, whether they're Masons or not, of suppressing and holding the knowledge. And what we need is education and the free expression. When he refers to that, that is who he's referring to. The bigger picture. He's not necessarily referring to us as a people, because we were not the architects, the designers, and the fashioners of the modern masonry. We're the architects and designers of the Prince Hall masonry. So when he speaks of masonry, perhaps others, not personally, but because we're a different ethnic group, if you speak about certain situations, he's caught up because of the situation he's in that dual situation. Whereas we talk about the oppression of our people, because it was his people who did it, it may affect him, understandably, in a different way than it would affect us. So he may not be able to be as objective. But I've explained this to him before, what Jacobite meant, and what it actually meant, as I explained to you. But he insists on pushing that one statement. Make the statement about Jacobites, fine. But what's all the other things that you said which doesn't even support what he said? But that's the idea on the Jacobites.
If there is
Washington, D.C., he was a little baby. He's getting grown now.
I wanted to talk about the double-edged
It's not but one thing.
in a limited time frame, there's only so much you can cover.
Right.
And, we are limited on our time for this workshop. We thank Mustafa El-Amin for his remarks. We did have a good time in Washington 2 years ago, and it's good to have part 2 of this historic event. We have since had a chance to review his book, Freemasonry, Ancient Egypt, and the Islamic Destiny, and we appreciate his dedication of his acknowledgments of the contributions made by members of the Philaxis Society. During the past 2 years, I have, well, not just actually during the past 2 years, but for the last several years, due to the research I've done and the articles I've written, I have gained somewhat of a reputation as an authority on Islam. And often have been asked the question by people in various places, would you ever consider becoming a Muslim? And my reply to them has always been no. I'm very much committed to my belief as a Christian since having become a Christian over 20 years ago. And I'm also very committed to the cause of Prince Hall Freemasonry. I have said before, and I'll say it again, that there's no organization historically that was and is more committed to the cause of African American liberation than the Prince Hall Masonic Fraternity. And under no circumstances would I ever consider dropping my membership in the Prince Hall Masonic Fraternity. I am a Prince Hall Mason now. I will be a Prince Hall Mason when I die. And I hope every Prince Hall Mason in this room says the same thing. No one, absolutely no one on the face of the earth has the right to demand, recommend, or even suggest that a Prince Hall Mason drop out of Masonry. And if a person joins a particular religion and a Prince Hall Mason decides to change his faith, that's his prerogative. But the new religious leader that he goes to, it is none of his business to try to tell him you can no longer be a Mason. And he's violating all bounds of authority when he does so. Everyone has a right to their belief. Everyone has a right to express their belief however they will. There's been a lot of controversy, of course, concerning this book, The Satanic Verses. I haven't read it thus far. No copies have been available in Waco, or Texas, where I live, though they probably, I've checked all the bookstores, they don't have it yet. They probably will eventually. But anyway, anything anybody writes, somebody's going to be offended by it. And I haven't read the book, so I can't pass judgment on just what I've heard other people say about it. But nobody has the right to threaten to put somebody to death because they don't like what they've written. Salman Rushdie may be as wrong can be, but he has a right to his belief. And it is absolutely outrageous that Ayatollah Khomeini could put a death sentence on him. And actually, the term Satanic Verses would be a very good description of the sayings of Ayatollah Khomeini, because I cannot say anybody could consider him a holy man. The man is full of Satan from the word go. And for every word of blasphemy that Salman Rushdie has uttered, Ayatollah Khomeini has issued 1,000,000 words of blasphemy. And when the Iranian Revolution first occurred, the late great president of Egypt commented on something that one of the things Mustafa and I agreed on about the need for revision of the shrine ritual. I agree fully with that. And some of that stuff could be cut out. And I wish it would be cut out. And I hope the Imperial Council will cut it out. There's a lot of room for improvement. Masonry is not perfect. No body of Masonry is perfect. All of it could use some improvement. But, you know, various places there has been effort made to, accommodate the critics in recent years. For example, in no time have I seen the critics of Masonry say, well, if you do this, you Masons, then we'll do this. If you concede this point, we'll concede this point. I have never seen any of the critics make such an offer. And so before we start making any changes, let's demand some concessions from the critics in return. Thank you.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions, just a statement, short statement, how I have seen this young man grow. And not only that, I have seen the transformation of thought coming from the Muslim community in regards to other religions and more especially Freemasonry. There is only one thing missing in Mustafa when it comes to understanding the symbols of Freemasonry, and that is the one thing that will always escape him until he becomes a Mason. Just like I can study all the Islamic teachings I can, but until I make that giant step and become a Muslim, I will forever miss the Islamic secret. There is but one secret in Freemasonry. Gary Martingale brought out, we talk about secrets, and it's amazing how people read our rituals and philosophy and say, I got the secret. My brothers, I submit to you and to Mustafa, whose presentation, and he makes excuses for talking fast. Now, it wasn't time that made you talk fast. Jeremiah called it fire locked up in the bones. Recognize that God is speaking to you. But you see, when you talk about the two, you must understand that Freemasons look upon another two. And until we recognize that too, We cannot overlook the little pettiness of writers of different thought. Just a few years ago.
Okay, real quickly. So how did we get to this dialogue, this second Muslim-Mason dialogue? How did we even get to this at all? There was one in Washington, and then this was two in Little Rock, Arkansas. Well, many of you probably know I had wrote this book here, Al-Islam, Christianity, and Freemasonry. And the year we wrote it in was 1985. Okay, you can see 1985, December. Now, Imam Muhammad and me following and what attracted me and area I try to deal with across the board and following as much as I can and getting my signals, rather, I would say, on this subject. And hearing the Imam mention this early, and I think the Jane Jacob Metaphysics in '76 and other times. And like I say, coming in from the Nation of Islam, we mentioned this subject that the Europeans were studying Islam secretly, and we wanted to expose that to our African American people. But anyway, real quickly, this book was published in 1985. That same year, after Imam had mentioned this throughout, and you probably heard that, but it was really significant, even more so, when he mentioned it at the 10-year anniversary. The 10-year anniversary, which was 1985. And I was in the process, Amaya was publishing it from Jersey City, and Imam, I'm going to play a clip from that, and that was, as we know, earlier in the year. And I'm writing it, and it tied in. I said, wow, okay, we got to go ahead and get this out. But this book is 1985. I want you to just hear a clip from Imam Muhammad at the convention in 1985, and then showing from 1985 certain things that happened that led to that second dialogue, okay?
I saw once men come out and stop the downtown traffic on a business day. They had to reroute the traffic on a business day. Look at here. They will make an expressway. They will set times for the movement of traffic on that expressway, whether it goes north or south or slow or fast, or whether 4 lanes are used or 2. They will do all of these things to favor the rich, the business people in the center of the city. They reroute the traffic. If the business people who come and work there report that they don't like to stop in your neighborhood on your corner and wait for the light to change, but you stared at them, they will say, okay, we will fix it so you don't have to stop in their neighborhood. We will make an expressway. You won't even see them. Now they'll do all of these things to favor the rich, the money makers. Huh? But I saw the traffic rerouted on a business day because men wanted to parade. White men. They weren't black, although there are some blacks that do this too. They wanted to parade their Moroccan-looking hats and show off crescents. And the word Medina and Mecca and Allah, etc. And I remember as a youngster in these United States during World War II, just immediately thereafter, seeing in the paper where Truman had greeted some people, Assalamu alaikum. The fact is that the Western society has for long been studying Quran, Islamic knowledge, Islamic history, and extracting from it for their own benefit. That's the fact. And they call it secret order. Secret order. That's a fact. And I heard when they really get up in the high degrees, they stop saying hello and goodbye. They say assalamu alaikum and wa alaikum assalam among themselves in private. That's what we are told. And that they stop reading the Bible and they start studying the Quran. That's what we are told. Then the black man come into the order, the secret order, and has to send way over to Europe to get in it. This is history. Am I right or wrong? This is history. Black people appealed to the white order of the Shriners and Masons to get in, to come into that secret order. They didn't accept them, just like at first the church didn't accept them. So determined to get in, a black man, as a spokesman for the rest of the blacks that wanted to get in the order, he wrote to the order, the home-based order in Europe, and asked them to give him a charter to practice the same secret doctrine in these United States. And they granted the charter to him to practice that secret doctrine in these United States.
Okay, if you get the 10-year anniversary tape 1, you will be able to hear the rest of it. Just time-wise, I was trying to keep this to part 1, to just 1. But anyway, what happened? That was 1985, and in that same year, I just wrote that book later. I was writing it, and it was published in '85. So I didn't know the Imam was going to say that. I hadn't spoke to him yet. We had never met yet, but I was still studying and trying to help in whatever way. But anyway, real quick, what led to that dialogue, which was the second one. Here's the first one. They had read my book. The spokesman there for the Phylaxis Society of Masonry. And here's the letter. To Mustafa El-Amin. I recently read your very interesting book, Al-Islam, Christianity, and Freemasonry. So for time's sake, I'll just stroll down slowly, and you can read this letter. The most important part here was the invitation. I have been asked by our president, Joseph Walks Jr., to invite you to Washington. That was the first dialogue on Thursday, March 5th. And here I responded, yes. And here's the other letter from the president. There he said, I have been informed by Reverend Uzzel that you have accepted our invitation, etc. So the first dialogue was in 1987, whereas this was 89, what you just saw. So I'm going to play a little clip from that, and then try to move on a little bit. What I want to show you in advance, in case it cuts off and we have to go to part 2, is from that dialogue, the first dialogue, and we got a letter from, a request from, as you can see, Saudi Arabia, King Faisal Center for Research in Islamic Studies. That came in 1988. After the dialogues, you can see Muslim Mason dialogue, videotape, Masonic symbolism, etc. Okay, and that came. This is the letter here. Okay, and request from Turkey. The lodge there had read it, and most certainly we sent the video to Imam W.D. Muhammad, and as a result, he and I met. So I'm going to play a clip from it, but I want to show you this here in case we get cut off. Here also is the letter that I sent to Imam Muhammad, April 1987, after the first dialogue. on this subject matter, Al-Islam, Christianity, Freemasonry. As you can see, dear Imam, I'm the author of the book, Al-Islam, Christianity, Freemasonry, et cetera, et cetera. I won't read it. I'll just move it a little slow for you, telling him about the dialogue. And then as a result, later we met that August concerning that, which I've played for you, and his advice, et cetera, and his comments. Also, here's another letter from the Grand Lodge of England. You heard Imam Muhammad mention that. This is later. This is 89, after I wrote the other book, Freemasonry, Ancient Egypt, and the Islamic Destiny. And you can see where it said, we write you to acknowledge the safe receipt of your publication, Freemasonry, Ancient Egypt, and the Islamic Destiny. Also here from Turkey, November 5th, 1987. Dear brother El-Amin, further to my letter of June 20th, 1987, I wish to inform you that I just finished reading your most interesting book, Al-Islam, Christianity, and Freemasonry. And so this is from Turkey. As you can see, the Grand Chancellor of Turkey from the Masonic Order. Okay, now in all my books, this is promoting what we are about as a community, supporting Imam W.D. Muhammad, and sharing his knowledge as much as we can. Also, the first Muslim Mason dialogue occurred in Washington on March 5th in Washington, D.C., and it was in a Muslim journal, May 22nd, 1987. Muslim and Mason established dialogue. That was the first one, and that was in Washington, D.C., and as you can see on the front page, Muhammad Ali, he wasn't there, but, you know, at that time, for sure, with him on the front page, everyone wanted to make sure they get that copy, and it was during Ramadan. So from that dialogue and it making the Muslim Journal, etc., then Imam Muhammad and I, we met. Our first meeting was concerning this here, and he said he would support me. Now, mind you, I'm supporting him. I'm getting signals from him. He's not getting signals from me. So if I'm writing on this, just as everything else I've tried to do and we try to do, this is in support of the Imam and what I'm picking up from him in all areas, you know, most certainly with the Quran and all the other things. So I'm getting my signals I'm getting and trying to support him. We wrote books on Christianity and Islam and other subjects, right? Trying to support and getting signals from him. So although he said he would support me indirectly and make sure that I listen to his lectures, etc., on this subject here, he's supporting me, supporting him. That's what this was all about. And I think Allah was able to help in various ways.